Hello, and a very warm welcome to this podcast from Management Futures. I'm Hugh Reynolds, Head of Digital Learning, and in this series I'm holding some informal, short-form conversations with my colleagues, associates and friends. They're all expert practitioners in fields related to, but not restricted to, coaching, culture and inclusive leadership development. All things that enable individuals, teams and organisations to thrive. In this episode, we're going to get to know one of our outstanding people. But before we do, let me just mention that if you visit us at www.managementfutures.co.uk, you can find lots more insightful content in our resources section, including a richly interactive video based around the discussion I'm about to have. Thanks for listening in. So Dorota, thanks so much for spending time with me today, getting an insight into your work and your coaching. It's lovely to spend time with you today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Hugh.
Not at all, not at all. And what we're doing is trying to find out about your practice, trying to find out about some of the thinking behind that practice as well, and what it is to be coached with you, and something about your ideas about coaching as well. So I hope that's okay for this short conversation that should give people a little insight into you and what it is to work with Dorota. And we had a preliminary conversation to chat about what we'd talk about today. And one of the things that really struck me when we were talking, because we talk as friends and as colleagues, and we have a chat, have a conversation. One of the things that really struck me was that for you, coaching isn't just a conversation, or it's more than conversation. So could you tell us about that?
Yes, it is. It is more than just a conversation, and it is something different than a friendly conversation. Because as humans, I believe we have this profound need to like and be liked. So we can, even as friends, we can create a safe space. We can be listening. We can be empathetic, sympathetic, open to what the other person is talking about, taking us through. But we may not share all our reflections and views. We may be thinking, "Oh, I heard them. They are going through a difficult thing." Another thing that comes to mind, that crosses my mind, is that we are often surrounded by people who are very much like ourselves. We share similar views, opinions, beliefs. Confirmation bias, the psychological tendency to focus on the information and the people who confirm our beliefs. So very often our friends will just nod their head, okay? They will not share difficult questions. They will not challenge. And in coaching, we challenge. We ask difficult questions. We take our clients to areas that don't feel comfortable. And that's very often a very good sign, because it means that maybe we are digging deep into something that is important, not comfortable, but important for the process that are about to begin or is going on.
And it's perhaps uncovering something that's hidden there, to get to that hidden thing that might not come out of a conversation with a friend or a colleague. Are you getting to something different? Something is revealed perhaps in that conversation?
Very often we get to something different. Very often when a coach asks a powerful question, there is silence. And again, in a typical conversation, many people are afraid of silence. Horror vacui, fear of silence, fear of emptiness. In coaching, we know there's nothing wrong with the silence. And very often when there is silence following our question, it means that something important is happening in this conversation, that maybe we are getting to something that is very deep, but important, profound.
And even in English, we talk about awkward silences.
Mhm.
We sort of, oh, we need to fill that
Mhm.
silence with some talk or with some action. And I often think in the sessions that I run, sometimes we have awesome silence, so that we
Mhm.
take that time to reflect. And it's fascinating that you use that within your practice, using the silence, using something that doesn't look like anything's happening, but actually that's where perhaps the magic of coaching can happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that differs coaching from friendly conversation is that the coaching process and the coaching conversation have got clear structure,
Mm,
frame.
mm,
Okay, so
yeah.
when we start the process, there is the starting point, the session when we agree the goals.
Mhm.
Then we work together, and there is this final session in huge majority of cases.
hmm So there's a boundary to the relationship, and that makes it different from perhaps, as our relationship, that we'll have another conversation and we've not decided when to stop talking. But in coaching, that boundary is important for you, I guess.
Yes, it is important because coaching is about change, is about supporting the client in achieving their objectives, in making this change or making a decision. And once it's made, once the goal is achieved, the coaching process is over.
Mm,
Sometimes, the relationship is so good that it's difficult to say goodbye. I remember a coaching relationship, a coaching process where I work with a client, and it was going really well. We both felt it, and we were achieving the goals, achieving the objectives. And at one session, I had a reflection. I said, I think we are about to finish. We need to agree. I suggest we agree at the final review session. And the client said, oh, no, I don't want it now. I want to work with you longer. Sometimes, not so rarely, in fact, coachees, clients return to us, but they
mm,
return with different objectives, with different goals, with different issues, and it's a different coaching process.
yeah.
So, so in this case I described to you,
hmm
with sadness, I think
hmm
shared by both of us, we said goodbye, right? And the goals finished. The client found their resources. The process finished. The goals were achieved.
And then I guess it gives you a time to celebrate those goals having been achieved, or that end of that stage of the relationship. As you say, it could start again, but they're almost coming through the door or coming into the call
Mhm.
as a new colleague, or with a new set of issues, perhaps. So
Mhm.
that so there's still a finality to that stage in the relationship, I guess is what I'm hearing
Mhm.
there. And such
Mhm.
great testimonial, Dorota, for people. You're working, and they're enjoying themselves so much that they just want to continue, even if their goal has been achieved. It says a
Mhm.
lot about the success of effective
Mhm.
coaching in that way. Dorota, I wonder if we could touch on something else that struck me in a
Mhm.
recent chat we had about curiosity. Okay, so I'm really curious about curiosity because, in a way, because I feel that I'm a curious person, right? So I want to know more, or I want to know the rest of the story. I want to know the context. I'm
Mhm.
thirsty, hungry for knowledge, if you like, and so sometimes my curiosity sort of carries me away from perhaps the client's agenda.
Mhm.
So it might be I'm asking a question to feed my curiosity rather than to support them. But you see
Mhm.
curiosity in a different way. I was really impressed with your brand
Mhm.
of curiosity. Can you tell us about it?
Mhm. I believe I am curious about the person's goal, their agenda, the journey they are about to begin with me. What do they want to achieve? I'm curious to find out what resources they have and what motivation they have to achieve their objective. So I might be asking questions to help them visualize their future when they get there when they achieve the objective, what will they feel like, what it will give them, what will they see, what will they feel, what will they say to themselves, what will they hear.
Mhm.
So this is the kind of curiosity I believe that prevents me from working on my agenda.
Mm. So you're curious about how the client's story will unfold, but you're not
Mhm,
going in seeking particular things or specific things, as I mentioned, to feed your own curiosity. It's about curiosity of how things will develop in that relationship, but
mhm.
also in that situation for the client. I think I'd love to bottle this kind of curiosity because it sort of allows me to still be a curious person, which is very important to me and my identity, but also not knock the client's agenda off course. So
Mhm,
I was really taken when you were talking to me about this earlier. In it's a kind of generous form of curiosity that I think you've discovered in your practice there. And I wonder about another branch of this curiosity, perhaps, is about curiosity in culture. So I'm sat here in Bristol, in England, and you're there
mhm.
in Gdansk in Poland. We often talk about our shared culture and differences in culture. How does that help your coaching? Because I know you coach internationally with people from many different cultures. How does that help in the coaching practice itself?
Hmm. I think it helps me not to formulate opinions too quickly. So it's another side or type of curiosity, to observe, to learn more about the person, and keep asking questions to discover their context,
Mm.
their map, their world,
Hmm.
instead of making judgments and thinking you know better.
Hmm.
You are open, you observe, and you learn about the other person.
Mm. And
Of course, oh, sorry.
no, I just wondered about the perspectives there. If you observe different perspectives with those different cultures that you're working with, is it a different worldview that perhaps sometimes you come across?
Yeah, I work with different cultures all over the world. So work with people from Asia, Africa, even different European countries. Uh, it's sometimes the differences are at a very obvious level. You
Hmm.
have to give the other person more time before they respond.
Yeah.
Uh, but sometimes it's also about the beliefs that are very very deeply present in the whole culture that you have to understand and that you have to respect. For example, before asking another question and analyzing what the customer can do, what the
Mm.
client can do.
Hmm.
So I think it's learning about the culture at very many different levels.
Yes. Yeah. And so lots of places that curiosity can still be helpful in
Mhm.
those cultural contexts, and also sort of an appreciation for difference, an appreciation for those different perspectives that you're bringing. You're not just assuming that people see it your way or any particular way at all. It's still an exploration of this coaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mhm.
I wonder if just to round off our conversation today, which I know has just scratched the surface in terms of who you are, Dorota, and what your coaching is all about. One other theme that really interested me was in whether people are always ready for coaching. So because I work for Management Futures, I work for
Mhm.
a great coaching organization, and there's a danger that I then see everything as a problem to be coached. So, I have to be an
Mhm.
advocate for coaching and evangelize about this and say how great coaching is. And yet, I know for you and your practice, you're a lot more discerning and sophisticated in that
Mhm.
approach. You don't say, "Yes, come to me and I'll coach you, and all your problems will be solved." You, it seems to
Mhm.
me like you want to make sure that people are ready for that deep experience of coaching.
Mhm. Yes, that's true, because coaching is about change. Uh, it's also about being vulnerable. It's about changing your habits,
Hmm.
patterns,
Hmm.
maybe losing control. And it can be difficult. It will require for sure energy, time. Sometimes it will be painful because maybe you will have to say goodbye to some of the things that you've been doing for a long
Mm.
time. Sometimes you have to, I don't know, change your job, change your habits, and it's always difficult. There could be some loss related to it.
Mm.
So I think being very open about it at the beginning of the coaching process and having a very candid conversation. Are you ready for it?
Mm.
Do you have the time, the energy? Do you really want this change? How motivated are you? Because there is a cost to everything.
Mm. So
So,
being
so
aware of that cost, that it's not going to come for free. You're going to have to
yes.
put more energy into it. So Dorota, I've emphasized there in your thinking about the readiness for coaching, how
Mhm.
people need to be aware that there are going to be costs here. There's going to be an investment that they need to make in themselves and in the process. And that can sometimes, as you've said, sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable. So there are emotional costs around this,
Mhm.
but it's still worth it, right? Still worth it
More
in the long
than
run?
more than worth it. And by the way, I loved the word investment that you used. It uh, creates a very different emotional response when you say investment or cost. It may create a different emotional response. So there is a reward there, definitely. There is a payoff there because there is a reason why you're starting the coaching process. Something probably has changed in your environment, in your life, and you are looking for ways to cope with it better or to make a better decision. And once you are there, wow, it's such a relief.
Mm,
It's
mm,
such a relief and a
yeah.
satisfaction that maybe I learned a new thing. Maybe I understood better the world around me, or maybe I understand now better myself,
Mm,
or the very important people in my professional life, very often not only in the professional life. Uh, Although it's a professional coaching and it happens in the, let's say, professional environment, what you learn, you can apply in all aspects of your life.
mm.
And it
Thank,
gives such a satisfaction.
thank you. And I can see that just from the glow on your face that you've experienced a lot of that with your clients. And to be part of that is a very special thing when there's that payoff of the investment that has been made. Is it sometimes their motivation might be less than perhaps their manager's motivation to get them
Exactly.
coached or send them off for some coaching? Do you experience that sometimes?
Yes, yes. So, what usually happens in my coaching, it's business and executive coaching, and very, very frequently, I have this first session with the coachee and his line manager. So what I very frequently recommend is I say to my coachee at a chemistry call, for example, if you would like to work with me, please think about the change that triggered this
Hmm.
coaching process and the change you want to see as a result of the coaching process.
Mm,
And I would be very grateful if you could find time to talk with your line manager before our first session, the three-party session, about what you want to achieve, to establish some common ground, to see where you could potentially differ, and to agree a goal so that this first conversation is easier for everybody. The
mm,
first session when we set the goals for the whole coaching process.
mm.
So you may say, in a way, I'm adding one extra conversation, but it's only good for the coaching process.
Yeah,
When the
yeah.
coachee and the line manager, when they talk about the potential objectives, sometimes it's clear, sometimes they think it's clear, and when they start talking, it turns out that they understand specific words differently.
Mm, mm. So
So,
you're
mhm.
clarifying and you're bringing in another very important stakeholder to that. Is that something that you would chair yourself? Would you have them, the client and their manager together in the room with you, or is that something that you'd
No,
ask them to go and do themselves?
I asked them to do and to go and do it themselves
Hmm.
without me
Yeah.
as a meeting, as a call before the first session with me, this
Hmm.
three-party session when we are officially, let's say,
Yes.
agreeing the
Yeah.
goals.
Uh-huh.
And I like to write the goals so that we are very clear about what we are heading to,
Hmm.
what we want to achieve, what the coachee wants to achieve, and what the manager supports, but also about how we're going to measure it.
Yeah.
And this is our roadmap. Okay, we
Hmm.
can refer to it throughout our coaching journey. And then at the end of the coaching process, we can again have a look at it and ask ourselves the question, are we there?
Mm. Mm. And
Are you there?
the
Mhm.
client is in charge of that roadmap. So that's not your roadmap. That's not the manager's roadmap.
No,
That's the client's roadmap. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Accountability, it's a difficult
Hmm.
thing, right? It's a tricky thing. Accountability in the coaching process lies on coachee,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Coachee is accountable for what they want to achieve, how they gonna measure it, how they check it, whether they are going in the right direction throughout the coaching process.
Mm.
I'm not holding them accountable for that. I can ask the question, who can help you?
Hmm.
Who would you like to help you, support you to get there? And they may say, oh, Dorota, it would be great if you let me email you, I don't know, next week just to share my reflections. That
Hmm.
is fine, but it's their idea.
Yeah. 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 So it's come from
Mhm,
them. They're still the
mhm,
source of the solution or the source for this progress that's being made. I think just all of these things that we've discussed today. It's really got to me that it empowers the client.
mhm,
Yeah, through this sensitivity around your curiosity, through this treatment of readiness, being very
mhm,
clear about the costs and about having to invest in coaching and be ready for that process. And also what we started talking off about, which is that there's boundaries and limits and different
mhm.
characteristics to a coaching conversation. And you've helped me understand that much more clearly just in this short time. So thank you. I know it will be very valuable to people looking to do their own coaching or looking to come and be coached as well. It's a great briefing for them. And thank you so much for spending time with us today, Dorota.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks so much for lending us your ears. We really hope you enjoyed the conversation. And if you'd like to explore more around this topic or any other shared interest, do visit us at www.managementfutures.co.uk. There, you can find lots more insightful content in our resources section, including a cool interactive video based on the discussion you've just heard. Until next time, take care.